Welcome back to ajspeller.com. In today's tutorial, we're going to continue with long division using the standard method, but this time we're going to work with dividends that have decimals. And what you're going to find is that the method or the way of solving these problems is the same as doing the standard method. But let's begin. We know from previous videos that our steps are divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, but we used a different terminology for each one. So we said, oops, let me fix that. So we said for the D, we said that stands for does, the multiply for McDonald's, the S for sell, and the B for burgers. So we have the D, M, S, B, and like we said, that's for does, McDonald's, sell, and then burgers. All right, for our first example, we're going to use some of the same numbers that we've used in our previous examples. So let's start with a divisor of 4 and our dividend of 4 and 88 hundredths. All right, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take this decimal point and you're going to move that decimal point up to the top. And from here, you're going to do everything you've done in the other example. You're never going to move the decimal point down. That's something I've seen students do. This decimal point only moves up one time to the top here, and everything else is done the same. So we begin with the D. 4 divide, so 4 divided by 4 gives us a 1. Then the M for multiply, 1 times 4 to give us 4. Then we subtract 4 minus 4 to give us 0, and then we look to bring down. In this case, the next number to bring down is the 8. We move back to the D for divide. 8 divided by 4, 2 times, or another way of saying that, how many times does 4 go into 8? Then we multiply 2 times 4 to give us 8. Then we subtract 8 minus 8 to give us 0, and then we bring down the next number, which is another 8. At this point, we repeat. We want to know how many times does 4 go into 8, or another way of saying that, 8 divided by 4, that gives us a 2. Then we multiply 2 times 4 to give us 8. Then we subtract 8 minus 8 to give us 0, and there's nothing to bring down. So here we see our quotient is 1 and 22 hundredths, and of course we're going to do our check to verify our work. So we're going to take the quotient, which is 1 and 22 hundredths, and we multiply that by the divisor. In this case is a 4. We're going to do all our multiplication in what I'm calling the standard method. 4 times 2 to give us 8, 4 times 2 again to give us 8, and then 4 times 1 to give us 4. What you need to realize is when you multiply by a decimal, you need to count the number of place values after or to the right of the decimal point. What I normally do is tell the students to circle those numbers. So we circled one number, we circled two numbers, so that means our decimal point is moved 2 places to the left. If we don't see the decimal point, it's understood to start at the far right, and then we move back 2 decimal places, 1, 2. So we see that our answer is 4 and 88 hundredths, which we see matches our dividend, so we know this here problem is done correctly. Let's move on to our next example. Let's say again, these are similar numbers. We're going to say our divisor is a 5, and our dividend is 30 and 5 tenths. And like I said in previous videos, let's keep writing that DMSB to remind us we need to divide, multiply, subtract, and then bring down. Let's do our division first. We want to have 3 divided by 5. We know that answer is 0. Then we multiply 0 times 5 to give us 0. We subtract 3 minus 0 to give us 3. And then we bring down the next number, which is a 0. And you know what? I didn't follow my own rules. First thing we should have done was bring this decimal point up to the top. All right, now we've just done the bring down, so we're moving back to divide. We want to know what 30 divided by 5 is, or another way of saying that, how many times does 5 go into 30? Well, it goes into 30 6 times. So we place our 6 here, and then we move to multiply. 6 times 5 to give us 30. Then we subtract 30 minus 30 to give us 0. And our next, after subtraction, our next step is to bring down. So we bring down the 5. Now we're going to go back to divide. 5 divided by 5 leaves us with a 1. Multiply 1 times 5 to give us 5. Subtract 5 minus 5 to give us 0. no other number to bring down. So we see here our answer is 6 1/10. So what we're going to do now is go and do our check. We have a quotient of 6 1/10. We need to multiply that by our divisor, which is a 5. So we're going to place our 5 here. And again, multiplication in standard form, 5 times 1 to give us 5, 5 times 6 to give us 30. So we have 305, but there's a decimal point here. We see there's one place after the decimal point, so we need to move our decimal point one place to the left, which would move it here. So here we have 30 5/10, and if we look at our dividend, we started with 30 5/10, so we know that we did our problem here correctly. And let's move on to our last one. Let's start off with a divisor of 7, and we're going to have a dividend of 714 thousandths. Not going to forget my first step this time. Bring up that decimal point. So the decimal point is here, and then we begin our division. So we want to know how many times, well, what is 0 divided by 7? Well, that there is 0. Then we move to our multiplication, 0 times 7 to give us 7. I'm sorry, to give us 0. And of course, 0 minus 0 is just 0. And then we bring down, in this here, we bring down our 7. Now it's 7 divided by 7 to give us 1. And then we have 1 times 7 to give us 7. And then we subtract 7 minus 7 to give us 0. And then we bring down, which is our next step, we bring down a 1. Now 1 divided by 7 is 0. Then we multiply 0 times 7 to give us 0. And then we subtract 1 minus 0 to give us 1. And then we bring down, in this case, a 4. So now we have 14. Now we're doing 14 divided by 7. Or we ask how many times does 7 go into 14. And that's 2 whole times. And now we have 2 times 7 to give us 14. And then we do 14 minus 14, which gives us 0. Then we look to bring down. There are no other numbers to bring down. So here we see our quotient is 102 thousandths. So we're going to take that quotient. Let me rewrite it here first. We're going to take this quotient, and we're going to multiply that quotient by our divisor. In this case, our divisor is 7. So now we do our standard multiplication. 7 times 2 is 14. So we carry the 1, write the 4. 7 times 0 is 0, and then 0 plus that 1 gives us 1. And then we have 7 times 1 to give us 7, and then we have the 7 times 0 to give us 0. All right. Again, it's understood our decimal point is sitting back here, but we have a decimal point in our divisor, so we need to count the places. We have 1 place, 2 place, 3 places. So I need to move this decimal point 3 places to the left. So here we are at 1, 2, and 3. So it's going to sit there. And now when we rewrite the problem, we have 0 and 714 thousandths. We look to our dividend and we see that it does match. So we know that this here is done correctly. Alright, so again, the key here is remember to divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. And then do your check, and you should get these problems right every time. Thanks again for watching this tutorial by ajspeller.com, and have a great day.